Short-term goals with a short-term memory. And what I mean by that is when you go to these selections, every day sucks. Every day sucks. So you get so overwhelmed by thinking, I have to go through 30 days of this. No, you don't. You have to go through today. Tomorrow is its own day. You go through today.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Wrestling with Mindset with me, Jose G. And today, guys, I have an amazing guest. He is a veteran, a business owner, but his story is so inspirational. I saw his story on the local news, and his story resonated with me, especially because we're going to talk about coffee today. I want to welcome my guest, Brent Tucker, the CEO of First Responders Coffee Company. Welcome to the show, Brent. Thank you for taking your time to jump on Wrestling with Mindset today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I love telling the story, and the more people that get to hear it, the better. So, pleasure's all mine.
Well, Brent, man, let me tell you, man, your story definitely is one that resonated with me. You have a military background. I grew up in the military, as a lot of the viewers that watch this show know. And my dad grew up was in the Army. He was in the Air Force. My grandfather was in the military, so I grew up all around it. I unfortunately didn't have the privilege to serve due to medical conditions, but I have the immense amount of respect for anyone who puts on a uniform and puts their life on the line for their country, for their family, just to defend freedom in general. And again, a lot of respect to you. So that was one of the main things what made me want to reach out to you, because I saw your story on one of the local news outlets, and I was like, man, just an awesome story. And what we do here on this show on Wrestling with Mindset is we share inspirational stories from people who have either been, addicted to drugs and come back and build multi-million dollar companies, to athletes that have dealt with drug abuse and alcoholism, to comedians who've faced failure. So we have a broad spectrum of people that we interview, and I thought that your story was amazing. So I want to jump right into this, Brent, because your story is quite a long one, and I know you don't have a whole lot of time, but First Responders Coffee Company, coffee with a purpose. It's a coffee company benefiting Florida frontliners. I love this because I think there's another coffee company that has a similar message, but this one's essentially focused here. Tell me about FRCC. How did it get started? The inception and the purpose and message behind First Responders Coffee Company.
No, absolutely. The really the genesis of it was I was doing some training down in South America, actually, as a contractor, and I had I was training SWAT teams, throughout the country on my, in between contracts, and I just got back to the States. And the truth is, I kind of forgot that I had made this commitment to the Fort Lauderdale SWAT team. And I had to tell my wife, I got home, I was like, hey, baby, I'm so sorry. I've got to leave tomorrow. I told these guys I'd be there. I got to go for a couple of days. And to be honest with you, I left on that trip. And most of those, half the times I did this, I did it for free because they couldn't afford to pay for me. And I remember leaving with a bad attitude going, man, I did this to myself. I've got to stop doing this. And every time that happens, I get there, I have the best time. I meet the greatest guys, and just there's something about that trip that I was at night afterwards going, man, maybe there's a better way to do this. Maybe I don't have to keep giving away my retirement money, and just do something to help these guys out. And I just kind of sat there thinking about the different things that we could do, and for whatever reason, that coffee just came to mind. And I was like, man, everybody, this community drinks more coffee than any other community, but I don't really feel like anyone's catering to them in that aspect. So basically, why not take that model that Black Rifle has done so well in the military and apply it here? I didn't want to stop at police, and why stop there? So we brought in the full umbrella of first responders. And that was a genesis of it. I that was where that was the true inception of it. But it would have been months that I actually put a business plan together because I just couldn't shake this idea.
Hmm.
Um, and then I actually made the business plan to talk myself out of this crazy idea. I said, if I just do a business plan and prove that this is a horrible idea, I'll stop thinking about it. Um, so I write up the business plan and I double down on it. I'm like, no, this is this is a great idea. Uh, and once again, just trying to talk myself out of it almost. I was like, but you know what? Sometimes you can write a business plan overly optimistic. You're in love with the plan. That's why you wrote it that way. Even though I believe I had conservative numbers within the plan. Uh, so I said to myself, well, let's give this plan to a businessman, someone I trust. Um, and I was almost too embarrassed to tell him what I was doing and that this was my business plan. So I actually gave it to him. I said, hey, could you look this over? A friend of mine pushed this over to me, but I don't really have any business reading it. Uh, could you read it and tell me what you think of it? He goes, yeah, absolutely. This guy brought 4 or 5 companies to market. He's absolutely the right person to be reading this plan. He calls me back and goes, hey, who's your friend? I said, well, I said, you can tell me the bad news. I'll relay it. He goes, no, absolutely not. He goes, I want to talk to him. He's like, I want to invest in it. Like, this is great. And so I eventually told him that I was too embarrassed to tell him. And really through his mentoring, I didn't need an investor. We talked the plan out. He showed me where, hey, this is wrong. This is wrong. This is inflated. Did you think about it this way? We brought it down to a number where I was like, you know what? And just me personally, I thought, I mean, I could use an investor, but if you believe in this plan, don't gamble with someone else's money. Put your
Hmm.
money where your mouth is. And so I took my life savings, and here we are, 3 months into business, First Responders Coffee Company.
I love it. I love how when you get an idea that you try to convince yourself that it's crazy enough that you shouldn't do it, and then you do it anyways. I totally understand that.
Yeah.
I definitely understand it. I come from a background working in the medical field for 20 years, and I've always wanted to be in front of the camera, produce stuff, and kind of like be the center of attention. The old me was like that, right? And I really wanted to do that. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna double down on it and just put my whole entire and it's paid off. And I absolutely love that about you. Now I want to back things up because you're a veteran, a very decorated veteran, by the way. I see that you were a Green Beret and former Delta Force operations. You joined the military immediately after 9/11, like so many around our age range and generations did that saw that horrible event go down a little bit over 20 years ago. So tell me a little bit about your journey and into the military, what motivated you, and what were the key things that you learned from the military that you brought into your business world?
Um, yeah, obviously, like I said, joined the military after 9/11. This will be a little bit of a theme of my life that kind of started here, which was a life of no regrets. I was scared like anyone else to join the military and go to war, deep down. But I also knew I didn't want to be 70 years old, look back at my life and be like, man, you felt a calling and you didn't go. You should have done that. And that was the first time that mindset alone, this life of no regrets, you get one shot at it, not be overly dramatic about it, but it was enough to say, yeah, I mean, at that time, it's a 4-year commitment. Just, go knock this out. So I join up, no intentions of being a Green Beret. I came from a very pro-military family, but had no idea what the true ins and outs of the military were.
Mhm.
My dad took me to air shows. My dad loved fighter jets. I knew more about the Navy and Air Force than I did about the Army. Um, So I joined, and they put me in air defense, which was a position, and and I was, I joined because I wanted to fight, and they put me in a position that was not going to be a fighting position on the war on terror.
Hmm.
So it didn't take me long to figure out I'm in the wrong position, and I need to go somewhere else if I want to fight. Um, and that we when I'd gotten out of basic training early 2002, we had just had a couple units come back from their very first trip to Afghanistan, and I was just asking, hey, like, how was it? What'd you do over there? And they're like, we guarded a gate. We didn't do anything. And I was like, oh man, that's not, I didn't uproot my life to go guard a gate in Afghanistan. Um, and I was like, well, who was doing things? And that's where the stories come in that are probably rooted in a little bit of truth, but not necessarily. And they're like, oh man, these special forces guys, they'd come in at night, like from a mission, blood all over their trucks, and they'd be like, hey, I need to see your ID, Sergeant. And they'd be like, screw you, open the gate, and go through. Uh, after living the career, maybe not. I don't know. Uh, so, and I was like, that's what I want to do. Like, I want to be. That's what I signed up for. Uh, and so that, this could be a 3-hour podcast of what it took sometimes to get places. But I went to my command, and I was like, hey, I want to go be a Green Beret. And they're like, you're in air defense. That's not how it works. Like you have to be in the 82nd Airborne Division to be a Green Beret. Like, you just got in the Army. You're a private. You have to be a sergeant to go be a Green Beret. And they just fed me a lot of bad information. Luckily, I fact checked everything they told me, and found out none of that is right. I could go as a specialist. They will take me from air defense to go to selection, although, granted, air defense probably doesn't do very well at special forces selection, statistically speaking. But I fought them for it, and they didn't appreciate a private bucking the system. And in hindsight, it was one of the best things that happened to me, because I gave such a I was so difficult for them, demanding that I go to selection, that by the time I got a chance to go to selection, there was no way I was going to quit and then have to go back and listen to those guys give me the "I told you so, you wasted all of our time." So in that aspect, that was great. Um, uh, I made it, go to be a Green Beret. And at that time, uh, I wasn't the best. When I first got to Special Force, I had no aspirations of being in the Delta Force. I was just happy to be a Green Beret. A couple years into it, the same feeling kind of comes back. Like, hey, like, what if, what else is out there? Like, you feel kind of accomplished, but there's one more place that you could go, and that's the Delta Force. And I was like, well, that's we had a couple guys go to selection, and they all came back, and they're like, no, it's crazy. And I didn't think I was the best. That's not the reason I went. Heck, I wasn't the best guy on my team. Like, there was a guy, without a doubt, better than me on my Special Forces team. But he, for whatever reason, didn't decide to go, and I did. So under the same mindset of, I don't want to be done with the military and look back and go, man, I wonder if I could have gone all the way to the top. I wonder if I could have made it. I just refuse to live a life of regrets.
Hey everyone, I wanted to take a quick moment to talk to you guys about First Responders Coffee Company. My good friend Brent Tucker, the CEO of FRCC, is serving the community of healthcare workers, law enforcement, and firefighters with his coffee. He is selling coffee with a purpose. Not only he's selling coffee with a purpose, but a portion of each sale of his coffee goes to charity. So it's definitely a great purpose. To get 10% off your first order, go ahead and type in the promo code JOSEG for 10% off. It's First Responders Coffee Company, coffee with a purpose.
So I went and tried out. Didn't make it the first time, and it really changed my mindset because when I showed up there, I really just showed up there to prove to myself that I went, I tried. Don't get me wrong, I trained to win. But I also knew what the reality of this was, that a very, very, very small percentage of the guys that show up are going to take it to the next level. Um, but by the time I was probably, I, by the time I got pulled out of that selection, I had seen 90, 95% of it. And towards the end of selection, I was like, you know what? Not this course isn't bigger than me. I got this. Um, I was a little bit surprised that they even pulled me out. To be honest with you, I was like, man, I thought I had it. And I go to meet the commander on my way out. He wanted to talk to me, and he talks to everybody on their way out just to get an exit interview. And he goes, how do you think you did?" And I was like, I said, "Well, I think I did pretty good." So I know there was just, I told him the few mess ups that I potentially had, and he goes, "Okay." He goes, "What are you going to do about it? What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to come back." I said, I don't know when you guys do this, but if you let me back the very next class, I'm going to go home and I'm going to start training the day I get home to the day you let me come back here. I'm going to come back and I'm going to kick this course in the ass, and I'm going to go work for you." And he chuckled. He goes, "You're going to come kick this course in the ass?" Because you didn't make it the first time. Yeah, from a guy who couldn't make it the first time, you think you're going to come back here and crush it? No one crushes this course. I said, "Well, invite me back. We'll see." And and he goes, "I'm going to invite two people back from this class, and you're one of them. But you better show up the next. This invitation is only open to the next class, not the one after that. So don't get hurt. Don't if you deploy and can't make it, not my problem." So I went back, true to my word. I kicked that course in the ass, and 10 years later, I operated in the Delta Force at the highest levels all over the world, and lived a life of no regrets. And it just, I couldn't have had a more bizarre career from someone who had no indication, had no desire to do that. Hell, I was scared of roller coasters as a kid. Not exactly your candidate to live to hunt people in the middle of the night and jump out of airplanes at 30,000 feet. But I loved it. It was a time of my life.
There's something that you said there that was extremely powerful, and I loved it. And it was the second time around when you said to yourself, well, I'm not going to go to impress others. I'm just going to go there to really do this for myself. And I think that when you do that, and I've talked to multiple coaches, multiple leaders, multiple athletes that tell me the same exact thing. The moment when you just kind of like stop or just ignore what the outside world is telling you, either be a commanding officer or just your own beliefs of be like, oh, I can't do it. Like, no, I'm doing this for me because I know I can do it.
Yeah.
And the moment when you have that unwavering belief, that's when everything is done. Nobody can mess with you. I have a motto than myself that I try not to curse on my channel, but I have a verse that is like I am unfuckwithable
Yeah.
because I have that solid belief in myself. And I see that with you because becoming a Green Beret and Delta Force is no easy task. Just the mindset alone of joining the military and going through basic training is one mindset. Then you have to shift that into a whole nother gear because we're talking about the elites of the elites, people. We're talking about the people that you don't hear about in the news reports. Those are the people that are working behind the scenes. All right. This is how top level and elite of a squad these men are. So that is tremendous. So
And I would say in that, so you have the holistic mindset of proving it for yourself. But I would always say, because people do talk about mindset a lot, leadership, the mentality of a warrior, what it takes to be successful or perform in these, at the top levels of these organizations. And short term goals, at both long term goals, but short term goals. People really you know, short-term goals with a short-term memory. And what I mean by that is when you go to these selections, every day sucks. Every day sucks. So I'm not, you get so overwhelmed by thinking I have to go through 30 days of this. No, you don't. You have to go through today. Tomorrow's its own day. You go through today.
Mm-hmm.
And so short-term goals in that aspect. And when I do events, I never show up to a selection or a run or a shooting event and personally think and look down the line and be like, I have to be the best person here. Because sometimes too lofty goals will crush you because you can't achieve them. And so I just take them a little step at a time. Let's say we're doing a ruck march. We're going to do an 18-mile ruck march, 55 pounds in my back. Don't get me wrong. I want to finish first, but that's not how I take this. We start, and it didn't matter if I was doing triathlons. I did really well in triathlons as a, as a triathlete training up. The guy in front of me, it's the guy in front of me mentality. I'm going to take this guy in front of me, and when I overtake him, I'm going to take the next guy in front of me, and the next guy in front of me. And at some point, there will be no one else in front of you, and you will be the best guy here. But you can't say the guy 18 people up, I got to track him down, because you're not going to track him down. You know, so just the mentality aspect of achievable long-term goals, but also achievable short-term goals that have measurable success that'll get you there.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Thank you for that. Um, Continuing with the theme of the military heavily because this has happened most of your life. I understand you're a Purple Heart recipient. You got injured.
Yeah.
Tell me
Yeah.
about that story and how did that play with your mind recuperating and getting back to normality?
Um, it was 2014 Afghanistan. High value target came in, and they wanted us to go hit this target as is our job. Uh, but by this time, I probably have 10 combat deployments underneath my belt, um, and everyone else on my team has a Purple Heart, but me. And and
Is this almost like a rite of passage type
yeah.
of deal within the group,
it's
or
it's a no, it's just you roll the dice long enough, you will get snake eyes.
got it?
Is one thing. The other thing that um, was just true about it is, and I'll tell you briefly the story, but I had from deployment to deployment to deployment lost the respect for combat.
Hmm.
I lost the you know the realism that it's dangerous, and that just because you got away with it this time doesn't mean you'll get away with it next time. If you're close enough to shoot somebody, they're close enough to shoot you. And that's the reality of this very dangerous game that we're playing. And it through just through repetition and getting away with it. I looking back, I think I just got very cavalier about it, and I had done some things in the past and just gotten away with it and just reinstilled some bad habits. And this got me into a position this night where I was further away from the group than I should have been. I should have brought more people than I brought as the leader of that cell at the time. Um, but a little bit of pride, I think, got to me. And before the night was over, it was me against five armed men, and from about 15 feet away. And apparently, my limit's four because the fifth one got me. Um, and ironically enough, I look back, and that was 2014, and the mindset of that, really wasn't a defeatist mindset at all. It reset me. It reset me, and I couldn't wait to get back to combat, because I did not want my last night of combat to be a mistake. So I I rehabbed as hard as a man possibly could have. I didn't miss the very next trip. You know, I had my arm broken in 150 pieces when that literally 150 pieces. The AK-47 round hit my ulna, went right through my bones, shattered my bones. They had to reconstruct my whole arm. I was told several times, "Hey, you know, we're going to have to take your. It's infected. We're going to have to take your arm from you. We're not real sure we can put it back together."
Oh my God.
I was told this in Afghanistan. I was told this in Germany as they brought me back. I was told this in Walter Reed when I got, you know, put there. Um, it again, that's another long story. After getting shot, trying to get back to the group, I got hit by a grenade. It was just it was just a bad night, you know, for me. And it was the best thing that ever happened for me because it reset me. And little did I know at the time, Syria was coming up several years later, and Syria was the most dangerous thing day in day out that I did. And that Brent from 2014, had he not got shot and reset himself, would not have made it out of Syria.
As 2023 keeps rolling along, there's so much uncertainty in the world. With fears of a financial recession, jobs being cut, family structure being separated, anxiety and depression being at an all-time high, now is the time to start getting your shit together. Most people that start a business or want to get further in their career don't, because they don't have the proper mindset. At the 3T Warrior Academy, we are a tribe of like-minded individuals, all supporting and loving each other unconditionally. It's a one-stop shop for everything: business coaching, mindset coaching, nutritional coaching, fitness coaching, financial coaching, everything you need in one place. And in 2023, we're giving away 7 days for free. This gives you an opportunity to test out the waters and see if the 3T Warrior Academy is for you. Join the 3T Warrior Academy 7 days for free in 2023. Click the link in the description below. Wow.
It was the best
It
thing that happened to me.
it almost feels like you're describing an action movie that I've seen, like, but
Yeah.
wow, that's just unbelievable, Brent. And one thing that you also said there while you were, rehabbing, that you said that this is one of the best things that happened for you, not to you, for you. I think that's an important distinguishment that we need to make, because there's a lot of people that would go quickly into the mindset of, oh, this happened to me. This happened to me. No,
No.
this happened for you, because out of these lessons, you get to find out what you're made of, what lessons you learned, and how you can apply them going forward. So I love that you said that. So, all right. So, I mean, this is an amazing conversation. I thank you for this. I'm so incredibly grateful for this, because this is just an amazing conversation. But I want to let's kind of shift things over from military now to law enforcement, because you're in law enforcement as well, correct?
I still continue to train law enforcement and be a part of it. I personally am not, you know, a badged police
Oh, okay,
officer.
gotcha.
No, but I still train the local SWAT team here, and I'm still. I was just up in Virginia doing a law enforcement fundraiser, and then stopped in and trained some of their guys over there. So, and I do active shooter training as well for them. So, very much connected to the law enforcement community.
I love it. I love it. So, all right. So now we know about how first responders came to be. We know your history from the military. So now I want to start getting into your business, into how things started getting put together and your journey, because building a business is no easy task, and it's and people dream about it and they're always talking about it, but then there's the people that actually do it and are in there in the trenches, you know, putting in the grind day in day out, making connections, networking. So I would like to know a little bit about, like, did you have a business background? How did you learn the ropes in the business world? Did you, like, for me, in my experience, what I did is I do a lot of research. I look for the most successful people who are doing it in their space, and I listen to them, and not necessarily having a business background myself, but by listening to them and following what they're doing, I'm able to do well for myself. So I'd like to know a little bit about your business journey, and kind of like taking what you have from the military and all that discipline and the mindset and applying it to your business. How would you describe that?
Yeah.
And if you can share that with me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you'd asked me a little bit earlier, a similar question as far as, and how does it relate to business? And I actually didn't follow up on that. So I'm glad you came back to this, because this is 100% the relatable, and what I found that applies to special operations and people who do well and exceed there, and it applies to businesses. This: if you go into a mission without enough planning, you're going to fail. If you go into a mission with too much planning, you'll never get to target. You'll never leave. Some people never know when to stop planning. So it is a fine line, and I can't tell you what that line is. There has to be some sort of common sense about you. There has to be some sort of wired right to know, what's efficient. But we come, usually in the military, we'll say, come up with a 90% solution, because at the end of the day, that last 10% is what takes a lot of your time, those finite details. But most of the time, you can come up with a 90% solution to anything fairly quickly. That model couldn't apply any more to business. And I've seen some people, uh, you know, not go into business because they're too scared to, and I understand that. Like, it's not it with my background, it still was not easy for me to gamble away my whole savings on this. Um, or they go into it too quickly without thinking about it enough, or they are paralyzed with the decision making process and can't make decisions fast enough to be effective. So that correlation is with 100% still applies in business. And you have to be able to move the speed of the market and make a quick decision, and make an informed decision, but informed decision quickly. And that's paid off several times already in this business model, and I think continue will too.
I love that. I love that. Now, when you're in your business journey, I don't know if this is the same for you, but for me, coming from a medical background for 20 years, jumping into the business world and learning the business ropes, you get to learn a lot of things from leaders and speakers that you don't necessarily learn either in college or in school, because they don't teach that stuff. And one of the things that comes around to it is like money and using money to make more money, right? And
Right.
learning those things. So, like, how's your like? I'm trying to find a way the best way to ask this question. When learning the ropes and learning how to use money to make more money, were you like, was your mind blown that you didn't know about this earlier, or were you like, oh, okay, this makes sense?
Really, I was a little more of this makes sense, and something that truly boggles my mind is that we're at the information age that we live in. If you want to learn something, there is no excuse not to learn it. I don't care who you are. Everyone has the internet. Everyone has a computer or access to a computer. I'm telling you, take any driven person and stripping all this away from them, they'll go find a computer. They will
Mhm.
find a way to make it happen. So I don't take that. There's so many people that with this truly a victim mentality that will take the first thing that stops them and say, "Oh, well, there's the reason it can't happen."
Mhm.
So, uh, you know, I didn't know it all. I still don't know it all, but everything's a Google search away. And someone will say, and then it's just excuses never stop. Well, then the internet's full of bad information. Do another Google search. Do a
Exactly.
third one. Do a fourth one. And when you find that 9 times out of 10, this is the answer you're getting, let's go with that. That's probably correct. So, another thing that it's almost a fallacy, or people just get in their own way, is to say, the money side of it's very complicated, and it can be. Don't get it can be, but at the end of the day, it's it's just like Dieting and health. It's simple math. You can't spend more money than you make. You can't intake more calories than you burn. It it is simple math, and if you just stick with that, you'll be just fine, and you'll learn the advanced stuff as you go.
Now, what was a bigger challenge for you when it came to coming to your mindset? Was the military a bigger mindset challenge? Was overcoming your injuries after after combat a bigger challenge, or building a business? Because they're totally different things.
Building a business, building
Really?
a business, and I can tell you exactly why. Uh, Overcoming the injury. I never battled with it. I only knew get better, get back to work. Didn't bother me one bit. Um, you know, you know, Going to these selections and chasing these things, they were chasing my dream. They were fun. They were challenging. But those are all on me. All of those were on me. This is on me, but I have people relying on me. I have paychecks to cut. In the military, I don't know how to say this correctly. I could say whatever I want, and if I backed it up, it doesn't really. If you performed, it doesn't really matter. You're gonna go on. I can't say whatever I want in business. I can't. I can't be team room Brent. Here and when a customer writes me and says, "Hey, this is a true story. UPS didn't show up today and they said they were going to. And I can't believe that this is your fault because you chose UPS to handle your mail. What are you going to do about it?" Team Room Brent wanted to answer that email swiftly. But I bite my tongue a lot, and I view things through ways that I don't like viewing things, personally. But it's what you do. When I make a coffee bag and I decide to put a quote on the side of that coffee bag, it can't be just something I like. It has to be something everyone likes and that doesn't offend people, or it does reflect on your business. And I don't overly worry about offending people at the end of the day, but I do take it into consideration. And that is a very different, culturally very different than something I had to deal with, whether it be injury or
Mhm.
anything I had to deal with in the military to or overcome.
Interesting. Interesting. It's because we live in such a polarized and divided society, especially here in the United States. You have to be careful with what you say. Any little thing. I mean, for God's sakes, look what happened to the M&Ms. I mean, I'm just saying. So it's
Yeah.
very yeah. It's almost like treading water here.
Yeah, and
All right.
no one will take your intent, into consideration, and no one will take your whole body of work before whatever it is that
Yeah.
happened. They'll just take that snippet, and you don't get a chance to defend yourself or expand, on what you meant by that. So,
Exactly.
that's I to me, I find that to be very challenging.
Well, Brent, we're getting the last few moments of the show here. Got a few more questions here. These are a little bit more deep. All right. So I always like to ask my guests about purpose, and purpose is a big thing, especially in business, in life, in relationships. How did you find your purpose, not only in life but also in business? Because you have the slogan to your company is selling a coffee with a purpose. So how did you find your purpose in both life and business?
Um, and my purpose was very easy to find while in the military. And again, in operating at a high level, it was very rewarding to know, that if an American got captured, that American knew that other Americans were coming for them, and or the America knew that we had a list of terrorists that wanted to do us harm, and there were Americans looking for those men, and we would find them eventually. And we found every single person we were looking for. It took us years sometimes, and that it gives you great purpose that what you're doing actually has an effect and is tangible. What I so craved in 2001 when I joined and didn't feel I had, I couldn't have been any more satisfied by the end of my career where it ended up, and that my body of work meant something. On the other side of that, and it's always a balance in life. I've seen guys even at my work, well, my work then, you still have a family. I still have to come back to my wife and my four kids, and they have to deal, with you being gone. They have to deal with you coming back. That is another thing they have to deal with. So my purpose was always my work and my family. I did my best to balance that. Although in my line of work, there just is no balancing that. There is no balancing that. Like, daddy will be gone for a long time, a lot.
Hmm.
So when I got an opportunity to retire with at 20 years, that's exactly what I did was was retire in order to try to write that and spend more time with my family. But I had lost the other purpose of my life, which is my work purpose, which I'd say I found here.
Man,
So,
I absolutely love that. The other part of this deep conversation, we're going to go into principles. I think principles, as a leader, as a business owner, or even just as a person in general, everybody should have a set of principles. Like for me, for in business, I like to consider myself having honesty, integrity, and unwavering belief. Those are my principles in business. In life, it's just peace, freedom, and family. Those are my principles. So, what are some of your principles in business and in life?
I'm a Christian, so my principles are guided by the Bible, unapologetically. I'll tell you that. So you want to know what I believe? Open up the Bible front to back. That's it. Um, and it couldn't be any more important because this is a for-profit company. We're
Hmm.
not a nonprofit. This is a for-profit company called First Responders Coffee Company that goes out there and says portions of every bag go to charity. At the end of the day, I'm not a publicly traded company. No one knows what I spend on charity. If and on bad, we've been open 3 months. We've had good weeks. We've had bad weeks. There's the uh, there's the bug in your ear that goes, well, maybe this week we shouldn't give to anyone because business is tough.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, without integrity and morals, it will be found out. One, two, people know what's authentic, and three, you have to live with yourself. So integrity and morals in business are and success do are cannot be separated.
I love that, man. Man, this is a great conversation, Brent. All right, man. So we're gonna close out the show with two little things. One is a word association game where I'm just gonna throw out
Okay.
some random words, and you're gonna respond either with another word or a phrase. And
Okay.
then the last thing is going to be three things that you want to be remembered by if everything goes away. So we'll start with the word association game. First word, military.
Special operations.
All right. Second word, family.
Kids.
Success.
Happiness. I don't know.
Greatness.
Success.
Coffee.
FRCC.
Yeah. And three things you want to be remembered if everything goes away: social media, internet. We can't find anything about. What are the three things you want to be remembered by?
uh, for being kind. It's a simple thing, but being kind to people above me and below me. Um, being generous, and as a family man. I'll take. At the end of my life, I'll take those three things.
Brent, thank you, man. I am full of gratitude right now. I'm very, very happy. My heart is full. I was looking forward to this all week, and I'm very, very happy that we got to take care of this conversation. Guys, I'm going to be putting the link in the description to First Responders Coffee Company. So make sure you guys visit them. Again, this is Coffee with a Purpose, serving the community here in Florida. And where can people reach you and find First Responders Coffee Company?
Mainly through our website, frccoffee.com. We're also on Instagram, handles at First Responders Coffee Co. And we're also getting into to businesses through Ace Hardwares, Wolfgang bakeries, various gun stores. So we're slowly getting out there.
I love it. I love it. We're gonna blow up FRCC with Wrestling with
we'll,
Mindset. So
we'll take it.
we'll take it. All right. Well, Brent Tucker, I'm Jose, guys. Thank you so much again, Brent, for doing this, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Thank you, sir.